So obedience is essential in your walk with God, in your walk with Christ, if you actually want it to be fruitful. You know, God wants us all to have fruitful and fulfilling lives because through that fruitfulness, we're able to bless others. We're able to give others wisdom, to help people in need, to steward properly what God has given us through our obedience. And this is what I've experienced in my life over the past year. You know, I'm 23, and 2 years ago, I was basically homeless, and I now own a landscaping business. I day trade pretty consistently. You know, I do pretty well, and life is just overall extremely fruitful, and opportunities consistently come my way. You know, I had to go through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of hard times my entire life. And especially over the past year, I had to go through a lot of purging, you know, and that's God's plan. That's what God wants to do for all of us is to become 24K gold, to become pure, to become refined. You have to go through the fires. And a lot of people will go through these seasons of difficulty, and instead of using them as the lessons they are and as the refining periods, they'll tend to go to these old habits. You know, they'll revert to these old tendencies because they feel like, you know, God isn't there. God isn't, blessing them the way they want. God isn't doing these things the way they want. And they'll just get confused. That's why obedience is so key, because when you start to be obedient, you know, when you start to seek the voice of the Lord, you will hear him and he will be like, child, like, be patient. This is not going to last forever. You know, they're called seasons for a reason. They don't last forever, and they create growth. And all you have to do is use them the way that they're intended to be used, or else you will keep going through the same things over and over and over again. You know, God is not going to bless you with these things you're asking for when you can't manage your time properly, or you can't manage your finances properly, or you can't, you know, he's not going to bless you with a wife if you can't stop looking at every woman who passes on the street, or you can't stop having lustful thoughts. Like, you need to be able to have self-control and have a disciplined mind, and you need to be consistent in every aspect of life, or it's just not going to work. You know, God is not going to trust you with more if you can't manage what he's already blessed you with. So God bless you.